The next one we've got is The Haunting starring Polterguy. No, not The Haunting. It's just Haunting starring Polterguy.
Clive
who you'll
Barker's
definitely see again, right?
Marketing! So this Polterguy, what's his deal?
Well, as a brief summary of the game, essentially you're the skateboarding punk and this rich family of I guess they were supposed to be mafioso types.
Yeah.
They run your ass over and then like they get away scot-free, so you naturally come back to the grave to haunt their asses. So it's one of the very select few games that I would call a haunt 'em up, where the goal is to scare somebody. It's a very abstract concept, and this was during an era where EA was making they were publishing some very unusual games around that time. I think they had the platformer B.O.B. or Bob or whatever you prefer to call that one. Also known as Space Funky Bob in Japan. There was another game they published around this time that was also really weird. Was it General Chaos or whatever it was? That one is very strange.
Yeah, I believe they were behind that. And it's not weird, but this is around the time they had Desert Strike. I mean, you know.
Right, yeah. They had some very interesting games lined up around this era, and this is one of them. And
Road Rash.
I have to wonder, the graphic style looks very similar to the Immortal, especially the Genesis version, so I'm wondering if there's some overlap there, because
yeah, maybe it's based on
in terms of the sound engine, other sort of things, maybe they had some assets lying around and like, hey, we can make a game out of this.
Oh. Well, it's possible.
I would have to look that up to see if the guy who's behind the Immortal is behind this game, but I don't think so. In any case, yeah, you're a ghost. Your actual targets, I guess they're not really enemies, but they're your targets. They can't see you. Like, they can't actually see you or hurt you or do anything to you. The only time they interact with you is once you possess an item in the house. Like, you possess it and then it becomes triggered. It's a trap. And once they go over to it, there's this really elaborate animation that plays. Like, if it's a cuckoo clock, the cuckoo, the bird could pop out and then it explodes and blood and feathers fly across the screen and it scares the crap out of them, rightfully so. So that's most of the game in a nutshell. It's round-based or house-based. Like, you're trying to get them out of the house so that you can then chase after them to their next location or something like that. Because they keep getting fancier and fancier houses as the game goes on. So you have to learn the layout. I don't know. It's really hard to summarize this game without just, a video would be worth a lot more to you. So, you could just easily pause this and then watch a video.
I guess two things. Like, I guess I would compare it a little bit maybe to the Deception games, but
sort of.
Yeah, I can see
really.
that.
What kind of genre would you put this under? Like action puzzle?
If I had to put it under an actual genre, yeah, action puzzle. Otherwise, haunt 'em up. There was a couple games that came out a couple years later. What was it called? It was some game where you were like this team of ghosts and you had to scare people. Forget the name of that one. That was in the 2000s. Because
it has the backstory is almost identical to Avenging Spirit.
Yeah, it's very similar.
And that's not a haunt 'em up. It's like a possess 'em up, right, or something.
Yeah, you possess enemies.
It goes a very different direction, but it's also a very unique game. I mean, you got to give a game like this credit for just being whatever the hell it is, right? Like you got to give it credit for that. Like even if it's not like a great game, it's still like an original idea, and you don't see too many things like it. And again, it's one of those things like you wonder whether like somebody were to make a game like this today, like an indie game.
What about Ghostmaster, that one PC game? Is that similar?
Ghostmaster? Oh, the PC game? Yeah, that was the one I was thinking of, I think, where you have a team of ghosts and you're supposed to haunt a house or something like that.
I could have sworn there's also one other game like that, but I forget the name.
It might have been a sequel to Ghostmaster or something like that. But yeah, there's a very select few games where you play as a ghost and you haunt people. And I guess the reason for that is it's very abstract. Like in this game, your targets just sort of wander around of their own volition. And so you kind of have to catch them when they come into a room. And you just have to hope that you triggered enough traps to really scare them. There are some peculiarities with the game design. You instead of health, you have like ectoplasm, and anytime you use a trap or anything like that, you have to give up some of that. And if you run out, you go to like this dimension. Like you can't actually die in the game.
Yeah, it's this dimension part that I actually think kind of degrades.
Yeah, that
the
does
game
drag
a
it down
bit.
because you're going to be seeing that dungeon or whatever it is a lot. And
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a major complaint I have about the game. You're working with this very limited resource, and it's very hard to figure out how to get more of it, or at least enough that you stay in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand if it acts as like a penalty for not doing well enough, but the way the game's designed just seems so incredibly difficult unless there's something I'm missing to keep your meter afloat so that you'll eventually, have to go to the crap dimension eventually, and it feels more like an imposition, like the game's just taxing you instead of challenging you.
Well, you can't technically die in the game, and they probably realized from the start that they had this limited resource, and the only way to really get it is to scare people. And then it's like, well, what happens if the player runs out? Does the game over? And they're like, well, we can just have them play a bonus round or whatever, and then be back in the game.
You go to mirror, and then the mirror happens, and then Like where are you guys thinking of this game? Like, is it like a laudable failure, or is it a like sleeper hit or classic?
It's not really a
something,
sleeper hit. It's not exactly a cult classic. I would say it was a good first try, but it didn't quite hit the mark. Like, they had this great idea, it just needed some more time in the oven, I guess. So maybe half baked.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to dump too much in this game because it does have a lot of artistic merit to it, because there are some pretty fun things that happen when you possess other objects. Like, for example, there's this one, like, observatory telescope for the stars that then turns around and fires cannonballs after you possess it.
Yeah, some of them are really goofy and lighthearted like that, and then other ones, like, I think if you possess an oven, like fire spirits run out, or if you possess a microwave, like there's like a chicken inside the thing, like a live chicken, and then it gets roasted alive or something really gross
again,
like that.
It's a little bit like Deception in that way.
Yeah. I'd say like the animations for everything you interact with, like one of the best parts of the game, because I think like everything you interact with has a unique animation.
Hey, how about this? This game's almost like a point-and-click adventure, in that you're more interested to see what happens than actually want to make it happen. No, wait, that doesn't sound right.
What sort of tier would this be in then? Because we have similar games on the list. I'm thinking it's kind of like Nightshade a little bit in that it's trying to marry these two genres together, and it didn't quite hit the mark.
Good point.
I mean, yeah, Nightshade is also like it's lower on the list now because we don't have a lot of truly abysmally terrible games on the list. But it is kind of like Nightshade in that respect, where it's like, yeah, I mean, props. Like if somebody came to me, if I were like the head of a publisher or major developer or something, and somebody said, I want to make this game, and they described Polterguy to me, I would say, yeah, go for it. I don't really care. Like, I wouldn't dump a bunch of money into it, but I would say, yeah, go for it. I want to see how this turns out, because this could become the first game in like a series of even better games. Like you could elaborate on this, and just because they didn't doesn't mean you can't think of it that way, Yeah. But it's also, it is what it is. So, I mean, better or worse than Nightshade? Let's start there.
Well, I don't think I forget. Did both of these games promise a sequel? I can't remember if Haunting did, because I think Haunting had an actual ending.
Well, I mean, if it says Haunting starring Polterguy, it's promising a sequel in the sense that you will want to know who Polterguy is later.
That's true.
In reality, you don't care because he never comes back.
Well, I'm probably the biggest advocate for Nightshade among our cabal, so I'd have to place this one lower by default. Although not much lower, but
so directly below Nightshade, essentially.
Yeah, let's go.
Well, I mean, right below Nightshade is Live Alive, or Live Alive, or whatever.
I'm surprised Live Alive is that low. I forget why we put it there. I
think we can listen. You can listen to it in GC9X episode 35. But we did a bunch of them that episode. We must have really been. I can't remember what game that was, but we must have really been hurting for time, because we did like 7 games or something. I mean, I don't know. Live Alive is like it is a straight up. In a lot of ways, it's a traditional Super Nintendo JRPG, but it has that weird thing, I think, where it adds like one weird thing to the mix, right? Where you have all those different characters, or am I confusing it?
Yeah, and they each have their own storyline, and I think their gameplay varies too.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the original Saga Frontier in that way.
Except nowhere near as complicated.
Or bad, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of love the original Saga Frontier just because it's so weird. Especially for its time. Like, Square made a lot of interesting, to say the least, games for the PlayStation, but very few of them are as challenging to your good taste as Saga Frontier 1. Anyway, but I mean, like, yeah, okay, so everybody kind of feels like it's maybe not as good as Nightshade.
Yeah, it's kind of a coin toss between the two, really.
I'd say maybe hunting is a little better because you don't have to deal with like the awkward fighting interface.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, the interface in hunting's actually pretty basic. It actually it works really well.
Nightshade just doesn't work very well with the D-pad, dealing with the interface and everything.
I kind of liked the fighting in Nightshade. Plus, Haunting actually does have a final boss battle in it, which is completely unlike anything else in the game. That's kind of not.
We just praised that. We just praised that aspect of games.
Wait.
I mean, I criticized it, but everybody else likes it. So.
Wait, you mean about bosses? Wait, what?
Yeah, bosses that are totally different than anything else in the game.
Wait,
we said something like that because, like,
short-term memory leak.
Well, I mean, I didn't get to finish that thought, but I was saying that about the Batman Arkham games, whereas other people like that about them, where it's like, you know, you fight like in Arkham Asylum, like when you fight Bane, it's like totally different than when you fight Scarecrow.
Yeah, but it's already an action game by nature. Haunting is more puzzle-oriented. To have an outright action final boss fight is
the final boss is pretty annoying though. Like that does kind of drag it down a little bit. Like the idea was pretty interesting. Because, okay, so the way you travel in that game, when you haunt something, you kind of travel in an arc, right? Well, when you fight the boss, you actually throw these bombs, and they travel very similarly to, like, you possessing objects. So if you're familiar with that, I guess, they thought it would transfer over. The fact that it has a conclusion, though, like, does Nightshade actually have a final boss or anything like that? Does it actually conclude and all that? Okay.
No.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you fight Sutek, the bad guy, and then he goes to jail, although I think he vows to break out or whatever. And
it did promise a sequel, and no one can figure out whether that was
Nightshade, starring Nightshade.
Didn't it have part 1 or something in the title?
The Claws of Sutek, yeah, it's the bad guy. I guess it did sort of do that sort of self-important thing. But I
mean, in these days, like this day and age, if somebody said, we're going to make a sequel to Nightshade, it would not surprise me at all. Like, I'm just like, okay, fine. Everything gets.
This might just be something I misrepresenting, but I could have heard they were working on one and it ended up becoming Shadowrun on the Super Nintendo.
Oh yeah, I remember hearing that too, and that's a great game. Those are like the only two
really
games.
Weird if so, but that would explain the weird adventure elements in the Shadowrun SNES game.
That would also make sense because those were the only two games worth a damn Beam Software made.
Hey, there's also Smash TV. That was a good port.
Oh, right. Well, anyway, we're getting off track. I'd still say I'd personally rate Nightshade a little higher, but it is really neck and neck with Haunting. So whatever you guys want to do with it.
It's almost a shame that they're not the same game, just like two different parts. But I would have to rate it.
You're like Nightshade, and then you get murdered, and the game is
it's like they're in the same continuity or time.
It's very, I wonder whether Polterguy was inspired by the old Dead Man series of DC Comics.
It's possible.
It's got to be, right? Like Dead Man was like a circus acrobat who gets like murdered.
Boston Brand, right?
I don't remember what his name was.
He was on an episode of Justice League Unlimited. That was a weird one. It was a good one.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those like legendary 70s comics. But anyway, the idea was like, yeah, it's like a circus acrobat gets murdered, then he has to solve his own murder, which later, like you see, like a game like Ghost Trick or something is very similar too.
Well, there was that one game too, Murdered Soul Suspect, although that one was supposed to be pretty bad.
I think there's also a text adventure that I forget the name of, Scapegoat. I think that also does something similar.
Scapegoat? Like Scapegoat, but Ghost?
Oh wow,
that is awesome.
That's
not the name. That's not the name, right?
I can look this up. We have the handy dandy internet at our disposal. So let's see. Google Scapegoat.
Oh yeah, that internet. I love that thing.
Yeah, that's the actual name of the game.
Guys,
And, the
if you haven't
graphics
gotten on
in
that
this
internet
game.
yet, get on that internet.
Yes, it's pretty wild looking. Hold on, let me get you the
Wow.
web.
Yeah, the internet. I mean, you can do some things with it. And
First thing I think of for some reason when I see screenshots of this game is Silver Load, if anyone remembers that one.
Yeah, we had an article for that one, didn't we? It was really weird.
Yes.
It reminds me, in terms of visuals and the way it's structured, it kind of reminds me almost more of Waxworks in terms of the way it looks.
Ooh.
The weird, gross, spooky stuff.
How disturbing. Oh man, I love to rate Waxworks.
Well, we gotta wait. Someone's got to be like the world's biggest fan of that game and be like, "Yep."
I think that game deserves a video. I'm not sure who would do it.
Also
but...
good, also good. Well, anyway, we should probably conclude this. Where are we putting the game any?
I hope someone nominates that one that someone just does after listening to this. It's like, yeah.
it could be a really low stakes game, though. It could be like a game where you're trying to it's like like somebody lives in a haunted house and they have guests over and they try to blame their own farts on a ghost or something like really
like a
low.
board game you'd get in the
low
90s or something, and
yeah,
it's have the little spinner dial and some gimmicky thing.
No, that was the ghost. That was the ghost, dude. That was the ghost.
All right, play 3 ghost cards to prove it wasn't you.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me. Yeah, you could get it's the 90s, right? So you could get Shaggy in on that.
I'm sorry to invoke Order Muppet, but should we conclude this segment?
I guess so. If I had to throw it on this list, I would put it above Nightshade. But again, it's neck and neck. It's a coin toss.
I would put it above Nightshade too.
All right, I'm out of power here.
All right. But it is worse than eSWAT as well. eSWAT is an awesome game that I would definitely play again. Whereas Polterguy, I mean,
I'm surprised eSWAT's below Technocop now that I think about it.
Yeah, me too. I don't remember.
Can we maybe reevaluate
this
later?
This is canonical, man.
Scientifically and definitively accurate, yeah.
Iron
100%.
Law, Final Sale, everything.
Look, I feel like Kix is a better game than Galaga, but I was proven wrong by that coin toss.
I can't argue with the fates.
It's there's nothing I can do about it. I was just wrong, and I'm still wrong.
The wheel of fate shall forever burn. Or whatever they said.
It's true. Yeah, there's nothing we can do about it.
All right, fair enough.
Look, there's a lot of things about reality I don't like, but it's reality.
That's the way the news goes.
Yeah.